Hello. Let's see. Let's do a little review of some great leathers, but first check out this new check out this new shirt. It's kind of cool. I think this is going to be a genuine Horween Products shirt coming out eventually. I just got back from Europe and I'm a little bit sick, so bear with me on my cold symptoms. But I want to go over some of these gray leathers because I didn't get a chance to review them when I was out of the country. We have a pre-order going on for these right now, and I think there's only a couple left of each. For example, this gunmetal might already be sold out, which is kind of a bummer. Hey, Andy, how you doing? Either it's sold out or there's one left. I'm looking at it on my screen, and it kind of looks a little darker. No, it looks pretty accurate. But I thought it'd be fun to go over each of these leathers and just show them to you if you were interested in these, because I'm not sure if we're ever going to do them again. It sort of depends on, if you guys like it. Because we're only trying to make stuff people like. All right, gunmetal vintage Dover, which is a relatively new leather. I think this is something that we kind of made up for ourselves. There's a leather called Dover, and then there's a variant on Horween's Dublin leather that's called Vintage, which has this, and Vintage has a white, sort of chalky looking wax on it that gives a mild burst effect, but it also has a nice silky feel. So we combined the finish system from that Vintage leather and put it on the Dover tannage. So now we have a new article called Vintage Dover. And then this color is called Gunmetal. For me, it reads a little bit more on the green side, which is neat. And we also tumble it a little bit. So you get a bit of this highs and lows in color, which are kind of neat. So I actually have two of these. Here's another one. This one's like a little bit more dramatic. You can definitely see some more of those dark spots that are more of the wax. And then the lighter spots are where the wax has been displaced a little bit. Oh my God, Doug Castellan. Good to see you, man. Yeah, I'll tell you about Belgium after we go over the gray. But Belgium, I knew that they were known for beer, but I didn't know the full extent of it. But they definitely have good beer. All right, so we've got the gunmetal, which seems to be people's favorite right now. I put a poll on YouTube here, and it seemed like most people like this gunmetal shade the most. I like it as well. Actually, this isn't. Is this it? This is it. The gunmetal stuff, and it's tough for me because it does read slightly green, but I think people like that little bit of like a medium gray, where this ivory is definitely very light gray. So I thought it'd be fun to get a range of different grays here to show people. Our challenge with the vintage Dover is it sort of is like inherently scuffed. So people that have received some of the purple vintage Dover that we've done in the past received it and said, "Hey, this thing's damaged. It came with scratches." And for us, it's kind of difficult because in the tumbling nature of how this leather is finished, you will develop some of those mild scratches, and they kind of we can't they'll rub out as you wear it in your pocket, but we can't really finish it to hide them. Sort of a difficult story, but we were noticing it's a bit of a challenge in the manufacturing process to keep the vintage Dover as clean as it could be. And that's again because it's sort of tumbled at the tannery, and in the tumbling, it can get a little bit scuffed looking, but it's not really scuffed. So tough to explain there. But this is the vintage Dover in the gunmetal color. Pretty sweet, and it seems like people like that the most. Let's go over the ivory since I have that next. I was noticing this one was really difficult to capture the correct color in the still images that I put up on the page. It kind of looks creamy, um, but it definitely, if you put it next to something white, like this, you can definitely tell it's gray. And for photography purposes, I have a gray card here, so you can see it's like a little bit of a yellowish gray, very, very light, I would say. And it seems like people aren't digging this one as much. I'm actually very intrigued by it. It came out a little bit different than I thought it would. I thought it would read a little bit more gray in a cut piece, What's really funny is when you start with a sheet of leather, uh, like here's the gunmetal. When you start with it like this, it's hard to imagine what this leather is going to look like until you start cutting pattern pieces. And that was certainly the case with this ivory shade. It looks a little bit more gray in the full side of leather, which is really interesting. Now, I don't expect this to change color very much. You might find that your denim color of your jeans might start to crock off onto this light shade, but I haven't worn it, but I'm imagining the patina process on this will be very, very slow. So this is ivory. I think it's super cool. It kind of, what I was going for with this was like, I have a nice light gray sweatshirt. And I was trying to match that color on here. And I think it didn't translate as well as I had hoped. So that I might give it another shot. But it seems like people are more, like I said, more into this like medium gray. All right, so we have that in the bugs and the Herbie. All of them, we made one of each style for the photo samples, but you can pre-order it in all of them. Take a look at this ivory Herbie. You can get a sense of the luster and texture as it reflected here in the light, and it's starting to look a little bit more gray, right? It's pretty neat. It's very nice natural grain character on the ivory Dover here, as well as on all of them. And that was the point of this entire exercise, was to prove that we could make a gray leather, but still have a very nice natural appearance, because notoriously gray leathers are really hard for a tannery to achieve. Everything kind of wants to go a little bit brown. So when you do have a gray, like the gray Cypress here, it kind of has a little bit of a brown cast to it. So in the undertones, you might see it starts to read a little bit more like a very light brown, but it's certainly gray. And this is the Herbie and leather choice that I have been wearing for the last few weeks. And this would be a great opportunity for me to show you how it wears in. The Cypress is still incredible. It's quite resilient. I'd say of all the leathers that we use, this is the toughest. It really, really wants to stay the way it is. So you probably notice on this side, I've got a pretty big scratch there. And I've just been traveling with this literally around the world. And it's pretty close to looking fresh. What's weird about this, or interesting about the Cypress, that little scratch there, as I wear this leather, it will fade in and go away. In fact, I might even be able to expedite it right now with my finger. Yep, it's gone. So there you go. Now it's gone. So scratches, scuffs, the Cypress just sucks them up. It's really, really interesting. So this goes for this new gray leather, as well as on the blue Cypress that we have, and on the brown Cypress. So I'm a pretty big Cypress fan. I think this might be one of the best full grain choices for a wallet. That's at least my current take on it. But Cypress is amazing. For me, this is my favorite of the gray colors. Again, I think most people are going towards the gunmetal, but I think there's something about this gray Cypress where it's like a really nice medium gray, and I love the way that the grain looks on it. Let's compare again, like how it's worn in. So just getting a look at the luster. It's a little bit glossier, a little bit more shiny. You can see that the veg tan character in the Cypress leather is starting to mold around my bills and cards on the inside pretty nicely. But it's super tough. Like, I can't believe how tough the Cypress is. So I'm a big fan. Again, we got it in the Herbie and in the bugs. I'm not sure how many of those are left. But again, depending on which is the most popular, maybe we'll do more wallet styles out of these in different colors. And then the last gray, this is sort of the huge curveball. And I'm actually surprised at how much I like this. This is the lizard texture on gray Latigo. And the finish method for this gray Latigo is something that we don't normally do. It's painted on. So it's very heavily finished. So you don't see any of the transparent look that you might see on the gunmetal here, where it has sort of a tonal range, where it has darks and light colors sort of on top of each other. And same with the other colors too, like the gray Cypress. you can see you can imagine seeing through the finish and you get a little bit of a depth of color. Where on the full finish gray latigo here, this one is a solid finish. So you will not be able to see through it, and therefore it's a very nice gray. And that was one of the things to compare and contrast, was the difference between a full finish gray and a natural gray. You can even see it there. There's something about putting on a full finish that kind of hides that fine texture that I like in a full grain leather. It kind of covers up all those little hair holes. And honestly, like the texture of the lizard print in there kind of hides it anyways. But if this didn't have the print in it, excuse me, if the lizard didn't have the print in it, that finishing covers up all the little hair holes that you're seeing here on the Cypress, if that makes any sense. So full finish is one flat, even color, but it also hides grain character in my experience. But what's really cool, I just thought this really worked, and I'm looking for the bundle. Yeah. So here's the bundle of leather. When I got this, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what it would look like. And this is another one of those things where you look at it in a full side, and it's hard to imagine what it will look like in a wallet in this case. So once you start cutting pattern pieces, it almost transforms the look of the leather. And I think the inside of this Bugs does a really good job demonstrating that for me. I really like the look of the lizard on this gray for some reason. Just turned out great. And then on the outside, you get to see that more of a range of the texture. And then in context from the smaller scales to the larger scales, I think that's really neat. And then even more so on the Herpy. So there you go. Those are the 4 different grays that we're doing. Like I said, today's the last day to pre-order. I'll probably cut it off about 24 hours from now. So in the middle of Saturday, if you're on the fence about it. I would say if you like, especially the gunmetal, it seems like it might even be gone now. But if you like gunmetal, that color, you might want to not wait on that one, because I don't think there will be any available after tomorrow or after today. But if you guys have any questions about gray, let me know. And then I would love to tell you about Belgium if you want to hear about it. But let's see who's in the chat here. We got Andy and It's Runners, Doug Castellon. Good to see some familiar faces here. Andy asked a good question. I'll get back to that. Nine While 9. Good to see you. And Respectfully Logical, Jesse Rodriguez, Todd Ledford, Frank. Awesome. Yeah, drop your questions about these grays in the chat, or any questions about anything if you want. I'll hang out for a few minutes here. Andy says, how's the gray patina? Does it progress towards a black color, or is it resistant to color change? So that's a really good question, Andy. In the past, we had done a gray leather that we called slate vintage. And people that have been in this channel for a while have probably heard and seen that color. The way that we were able to achieve the slate vintage color was by starting with a black base tannage. So in that case, it was black Essex. And then we put this white wax over the surface. And then we tumbled it. So you got this sort of chalkboard slate look. It was really, really nice. And I loved that gray color. It kind of looks like the slate vintage Dover here, or the gunmetal vintage Dover. The problem with that leather was it melted the wax and it turned black again, because the base tannage was a jet black. This whole thing we're doing today for the last week with these gray pre-orders, we've developed it in a way to where it will retain a gray shade. Now, it might darken a little bit like you saw on my gray Cypress, but in my experience on the Cypress, it tends to stay its inherent color. So these will retain the grayness. This is simply answer your question. In the past, they were going black, and we tried to correct that for this round. And I've desperately been wanting gray leathers for a while. It's taken me a while to get them. So my symptoms of my illness right now might be making me seem a little tempered on my excitement, but I'm really, really excited about the grays, especially the Cypress. I'm kind of surprised that this wasn't the hit. I'm kind of surprised that people liked the gunmetal more. But good question. 919, love to see the gray. Ordered Cypress and Ivory Dover. Awesome. Good choices. Great to see these lighter shades. I agree. It's tough. I think people, when they imagine a leather wallet, they think of browns. So I don't think, when we do the blue, for example, or when we do these grays, I think it's hard for people to relate to them because they don't imagine leather being that color. Which you can't blame you. They're somewhat novel, but I think it's really cool. Personally, I just like to see the the possibilities. In the room here with me, I've just got racks full of leather of all sorts of different colors and textures. So there's there's plenty of things to experience, and that's what I'm all about. Ivory looks like stockyard to me. Honestly, respectfully logical, that is a really, really good observation. It kind of has that same color feeling of a natural veg, where it's almost like a bone veg tan color. This is really interesting because it's like I said, you kind of have to see it in person and have it in context with something else because it really is like if I put it on this white card again, you can really see how different it is. It's like it's kind of gray. Or if I put it with a white card and a gray card, like it's kind of gray, maybe a little yellow. It's interesting. And Stockyard I find to be less gray than this, but it is certainly as light as this. I would say the Stockyard is slightly more orange. If you have that to compare to, the Ivory is less orange. You have two pre-orders. Oh my god, Jesse. One in Ivory, one in Cypress. I think you're going to be surprised at how different they are, and they're both really cool. I also need to kind of jump the gun on these. I haven't worn all these colors, which is usually something I like to do. I'm not going to be surprised if the Ivory stays roughly the same color. I think it's probably going to stay about the same. Todd, here's a question from Todd. What's the best process to maintain the sheen on hand glazed reverse epic splatter shell? I have a Grant Stone horsehair brush, your Tanner's blend, and Sapphire neutral cordovan cream available. I did a video on this like 4 years ago with using a spoon and some water. I forget what that video is called, but essentially what you can do is apply a little bit of moisture to the reverse side of the cordovan and then polish it in with the backside of a spoon or any other smooth object. I would try that first, and if that's not giving you enough fill, I would try a little bit of that Sapphire neutral cordovan cream. Polish it in there. It should gloss it up quite a bit. Frank says, off topic, but is the Fat Herbie and the passport holder the same size? No. The Traveler passport holder is slightly taller than the Fat Herbie, and it's funny that you asked that because I was just traveling with one of those, and I don't have it here. But the Traveler passport holder is a little bit taller, and we did that so you could fit your passport underneath this whole side completely. And the Traveler does that very well. If you want it a little smaller, you can put a passport in the back of the Herbie here, but there is a reason why we designed the Traveler to be a little bit taller. We just find it to be a little bit better for a passport. 919 says Cypress has been amazing for your work wallets. You work outside, often heavy physical labor, and the Cypress definitely proven itself. It's awesome. If you're working, I don't know who's making it right now, but a Cypress work boot might be mega awesome, would be my guess. And I'm looking for, I think Ashland here, we're sort of like on the leading edge of like new leathers and new leather development. We noticed that the things that we put out into the world start to become popular, a year or two later. So if we're correct, and I think we are, I think Cypress is a short-term future leather that you're going to start seeing more of because it's great. It's awesome. You know, I think the most popular colors are going to be more of those browns, like the brown cypress that we have. But it's very resilient, very grainy, super tough. I love cypress. I should get myself a pair of boots in them. Oh, Sherman Tan's here. What's up, Sherman? Hey, Jeff D. And Chad Williams is here. Mike G is disguise. Hey, my pleasure, 919. Excuse me. Yeah, I've been the last 2 days I've been in bed because I've been really sick. I got sick on my flight back from Belgium on Tuesday, and it was like knocked out for 2 days. Jeff D says, Phil, when a leather is tumbled, what is the process that is performed to tumble leather, and what's the end result of tumbling? I'm looking at a horsehide leather jacket with tumbled finish. Well, at the tannery, the way that at Horween at least, the way that they tumble leather is in a big drum. So if you imagine, you know, you're at least for my home, I have a dryer that's a big drum and it spins and it's got little baffles on the inside. That's the same thing that happens at the tannery, and they tumble the leather in there. If you do it for a long time, the tumble pattern becomes finer and finer. If you do it for a short amount of time, you kind of get a look like this, just a little bit broken up to give you a little bit texture. And the farther you go, the softer it gets, the less body it tends to have. So there's a balance between texture and temper, I would say, for tumbling. Oftentimes, tumbling will give you a little bit more pronounced grain, especially if you're looking at a horsehide jacket, like you are. It kind of gives it a vintage look, without wearing it. It starts the process for you. And in a jacket, it's probably going to start off a lot more comfortable because, again, like tumbling it relieves some of the temper. It makes it a little bit softer, so it should be a little bit more comfortable out of the box on a jacket. It's sort of like if you were to buy jeans that are stonewashed or like pre-faded jeans, tumbling gets you some of that worn in look without doing any of the work. So maybe that helps. I like using tumbling on things that have texture. And I'm looking for it right now and I don't have it. But we have another new leather that will be coming out soon. If you're familiar with the channel here, I've done some videos about the Bison Yellowstone leather. They've now done that same naturally shrunken veg tan hand-tipped leather, but on horsehide, and it's amazing. So a natural shrunken material like that has really awesome texture. If you tumble it, it sort of accentuates the texture a little bit more, which is great. Hopefully that answers your question. Um, 919 says, as a huge fan of things like natural Latigo, natural Essex, stone Latigo, it's exciting to see the other light colors, especially the gray cypress and ivory Dover. Yeah, my pleasure, man. I mean, all the credit should go to Horween. They just sort of made the stuff that I asked for. The stone lat. It's interesting that you called out stone Latigo. I didn't know that anybody knew what that was. The stone Latigo is kind of like the cypress here, but it's really brown. Was my problem with the stone Latigo for years and years. It wasn't like a stone color; it was sort of like a brown stone, which kind of bummed me out. So I've really, like I said, the effort here was just to get like as true of a gray we could get while maintaining a natural appearance. Oh, you're Michael G in disguise. Awesome, man. Yeah, get some Cypress boots. I should get some myself. Nick Horween has some Cypress boots that are steel toe and made out of extra thick everything from Viberg, and he can't even move them. They don't even flex. So I think he made maybe a little bit of a mistake there. Let me give you my story of Belgium. I was saying that I knew Belgium had beer, and I knew that they were well known for having beer, but I did not realize how into beer they are there. It's incredible. We stumbled across some street festivals in Ghent, which, by the way, Ghent is amazing. So much beer being drank, and it was really tasty and basically free. We were talking €2 to €3 for a beer, which is amazing. And the street festivals there are much different. I think they're a little bit more conscious of the environment than here in Chicago, at least. But when they do, when you buy a beer, they'll give you a glass, like literally made out of glass, and you put a deposit essentially for each glass, and then when you return it, you get a €2 credit for your glass, which is really cool. So I think I don't know if that's how they made it so inexpensive, but we're talking, and it's almost like 1 to 1 dollar to euro. So it's like a $2 beer at a street festival, which seemed incredibly inexpensive to me, and they're really really good. And then in Brussels, they had a lot more beer options from Monk's Brewing Beer, and those are really good too. But they're dangerous because everything's 9 or 10%, and really really delicious, and they don't feel like 9 or 10% beers there. So beer was really interesting in Belgium, uh, and this Europe in general is really neat. Excuse me. So yeah, that's why I've got the cold. I went out there to play a music festival in Ghent, which was great. Maybe I'll post some photos or something. But we had several hundred people come watch me and my band play music, which was really neat. Sold a bunch of merch, sold a bunch of albums. People really liked it, and it was cool to go to a place that it seems like Europe appreciates the music we play, the genre that we play, which is like post rock kind of stuff, a lot more there than in the United States, which is really interesting. But man, Belgium is cool. I recommend Belgium. I had no idea. I wouldn't have put Belgium on my list of places to visit, but I'm really, really glad I did. I would go back. It was great, especially Ghent, like old castles and cool old stuff. It was really neat. But yeah, I got sick on the way back, and I've been sleeping the last 2 days. I guess I'm still alive. My nose is all beat up from me rubbing it. It's gross. Aspen horsehide or something else. I'm not sure what that is. Beheathan. I'm not sure what that is. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with aspen. And you have a Fat Herbie and Stone Latigo. Man, did we make that? We must have made that a while ago. Which is I forgot about that. I didn't realize we did that. We probably only did like a little tiny run of it, which is why we're here. Like I really like leather, if you can't tell, and I like doing new things. So every now and then we'll do like fun one-offs, probably like that Stone Latigo. Matt is actually getting married right now in Europe as well, and I'm missing it. But my he got married in the United States, but his wife's family is in Europe, and they're doing like a ceremony celebration for him in Europe literally right now. So Matt, if you're seeing this, congrats again. Sorry I'm not there. So somebody's got to hold down the fort, the old Ashland leather shop. So I guess I'll give some for all the people here. Thank you for being here, and here's your reward. I'm planning to do some more fun stuff. I'm trying to do an event next week with some stuff we've never done before. I'm trying to do another cord of belt, but in a bit of a different way. I'll try not to spoil too much until I'm finished making it. And then we're still on track to do another private stock this month. And our goal is to do private stock every month. In fact, in 2021, that was our 10th anniversary, and we did a fun private stock thing for the 10th anniversary, and we called it the 10-year private stock event. And we had a custom stamp made for it, and it said X year Ashland 10th anniversary. Well, we're going to do that again because I thought it'd be funny to do it for 13 years. So this is our 13th year of making leather goods, and we made another custom stamp. And I want to do it. I had just so much fun doing these special one-offs for an anniversary event. So we made like an XIII 13 stamp. I think it's funny because it's an unlucky number. But I kind of want to lean into it. So we're doing that. And I'm hoping that will come in the summer here. I'm not a Swiftie. Is there a 13 reference for Taylor Swift? If there is, I don't know it. Let's see, what else? They're just trying to do cool new stuff. I have new products that will come out soon that are not wallets. The small zip has been really popular recently. People have been like, we can't keep the small zip in stock, so we're making another batch right now. I put up some stuff for sale on the sale page of the website right now for Father's Day. Like this wallet here. The USA Johnny the Fox. So I put some small discounts over there for new people coming by the shop that want to get something for Father's Day. Oh, Rodney. Nice to meet you, man. I'm glad you caught an episode too. Yeah, we haven't done a live stream in a long time. I've been busy. Honestly, like, we're busy here. But things have been a little bit slow in terms of, regular website stuff. So I've been trying really hard to broaden our reach because our whole goal here is just to share leather with people. And this year has been hard to sort of get our name out there. The game has changed. So I've been spending less time doing live YouTube stuff and trying more on Meta. So Instagram and Facebook. And honestly, like, not doing really well at it. Like, we're still trying to be pretty evangelical with leather and try to explain to people what the difference is and why it's special. And I don't think I'm doing such a good, like, I'm doing okay, but I really wish I could spread the word more. And it's like, at a certain point, you're gonna reach people that are just like, yeah, whatever, that's cool, but I don't really care about leather. And that's also fine. But I keep realizing that this material is so different, especially the nice stuff, that it's a couple steps beyond where people are at with their understanding for them to appreciate and understand like why it's nice. So when I talk about full grain, like, people don't even know what that means. When I talk about things having a bit of a texture, like, they don't know what that means, nor do they really care. We talk about patina. So I'm starting to think a little bit more about that, of like, what's a good way that we can explain these things. But that's where my effort's been recently, is try to get the word out. And I'm not necessarily the best at it. We do have a podcast. If you guys haven't checked out Full Grain Podcast, I recommend checking that out. I haven't recorded with Nick because I've been out of the country, but we're going to start that train up again. We had a really good cycle here over the last couple months. We put out, 8 episodes in a row. And it seems like people really like the podcast. The podcast is in the other end of the spectrum for people that are really deep, that already have an understanding of the material, but want to know even more and want to understand why the things are happening and how they're, how they're achieved. So it's pretty deep. It's pretty far down the rabbit hole. And honestly, I'm surprised anybody listens. Nick and I do that because we think it's interesting and we think it's fun. And then on top of that, every now and then we'll have really good guests. So we have a few guests in mind as well over there. We try to always have it be people that make stuff, whether it's make a boot or make a YouTube video. People that are creating things, we like to learn about the process, and we usually ask the why of things. Speaking of which, maybe I'll do an unboxing of this. I don't want to give out his address, but this is a maybe I can just cross it off. Well, whatever. Here, this is a package from this guy. So maybe I haven't even opened it yet. Oh, I guess I did open it. Somebody must have opened this. I've been out of time. So there's something in here. I think I know what it is. But we got that. I mean, I could be doing so many videos. I've had this sitting around. This is also unopened. I've had this just sitting here from Nike. And this is like an old Jordan shoe that has some suede and nubuck on it. And I wanted to make an unboxing video of this. I literally haven't even opened this box, and it's been sitting here for a year. I thought that would have been a good one to like broaden the reach, to explain suede and nubucks and split suedes and like what's a nubuck anyways, like who cares, and then talk about the leather that's on these shoes. So maybe I'll do that too. But the theme is seem to have more good ideas than time. All right, 85% of people like gray and 14% don't. That's interesting. Yeah, I think it's kind of a tough color. Anyways, guys, speaking of not enough time, I'm going to get back to it here. But everybody that's pre-ordered one of these new gray leather wallets, appreciate you guys supporting us very much. You're helping to not only support, this great leather made here in Chicago, and then a couple blocks away, our little business here. There's 10 people in our workshop. You can hear people working in the room with me right now. And you're helping to support them, myself, and our family. So really appreciate you guys supporting us. And thank you. All right. Hopefully I'll be back on here again soon. Until then, I hope you guys have a good day. See ya.